Good morning, everyone. Happy Father's Day. I'm playing my guitar and singing, and I'm not in my house. It's mind-bending. Anyway, so my name is Matt Wheeler, and it's nice to be back with you. It's always nice to be back at Action Church. And this is a song that I wrote several years ago, and it wasn't about quarantine. But, you know, it seems like it's taken on a new meaning during that time. So this is called Safer, and I'm going to lead off with this. Here we go.
Shut your windows, lock your doors. It's safer inside, safer inside. Lights out, quiet now. It's easier to hide, easier to hide. Oh, where do you go? Reason to believe it's safer inside, safer inside. Is it harder to stand up or to leave? Don't believe those lies, don't believe those lies. Stones can't reach you in there, and neither can the light. Insulated in your blanket. Are there monsters outside? Monsters outside. Either way, it's likely raining. It's fixed in your mind, fixed in your mind. Oh, where do you go? Go. You've been burned before you have reason to believe it's safer inside, safer inside. Is it harder to stand up or to leave? Don't believe those lies, don't believe those lies. Stones can't reach you in there, and neither can the lights. That's no way to live your life. Oh, you got to live your life.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, York, and surrounding vicinities. Yeah, so, and you guys are back in Greene and Lancaster County. We're almost there, which is pretty nice. So it's nice to be able to play music for people. Yeah, you know, 2020 was a really rough year. So I know, that's the joke. It was so subtle, it sailed right over. Anyway, so, but during the last few months, one of the things I've been doing is writing for a new project. So I'm going to play one of the new songs, and it's a 5-song suite that are all going to be, each song is going to be based off of a classic work of literature, usually one that people enjoy when they're young, but that has bigger things to say. So this one's based on The Horse and His Boy, about the lost prince of Archenland grows up as a poor menial servant, thinking he's basically an orphan, and turns out he finds out that he's really a prince, and the main female character in the story is named Aravis, or Aravis, or Aravis, if you really want to go off the rails with the pronunciation of it, but we're going to go with Aravis. That's the name of this song. So this is the first time I played it for people that I wasn't related to in my house. So the debut, at the premiere, however you like. It's called Aravis. Here we go.
First time he laid eyes on her, she dawned like a dream on a fine-blooded mare, voice in the trees. And both they were running, he a peasant and poor. She would be a queen, he had a name and his horse. She was a lark midst the lindens and pines. She was a fire in the dead of the night. Oh, I won't let us die on the vine. No, I won't let us run out of time. No, I can't get you out of my mind. Oh, we've come so far. Oh, love, don't lose heart. Remember those days when we were so young and so brave. First time she remembered, her heart turned toward his. He stood between a lion and her shaking fists. Her life flashed before her and reeled in the reins. He made her a promise she made safe away. She gave him courage to learn his true name. She saw the silent hand guiding their way. Oh, I won't let us die on the vine. No, I won't let us run out of time. No, I can't get you out of my mind. Oh, we've come so far. Oh, love, don't lose hearts. Remember those days when we were so young and so brave. Once and always a promise that weathers the lashing of the rain and the winds. Brave like a song, unfolding in song, unfolding in song once again. Oh, I won't let us die on the vine. No, I won't let us run out of time. No, I can't get you out of my mind. Oh, we've come so far. Oh, love, don't lose heart. Remember those days that we were so young and so brave.
Thanks, everybody. I remember most of the words and chords. Not bad for first round. So, yeah, we'll make sure our tuning's okay here. Yeah, so I understand that the theme for this time around, this series, is your happy place. So I could have done my kid's song, Happy with Emotions. I don't know. I decided against that. I decided to just go with the song that makes me feel happy every time I hear it. And that's the Bill Withers tune, Lovely Day. So, once I get my tuning in order. And there we go. Yes, there we go.
When I wake up in the morning, love, and the sunlight hurts my eyes, and something without warning, love, weighs heavy on my mind. Then I look at you, and the world's all right with me. Yeah, just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be a lovely day, 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 lovely day. The day that lies ahead of me seems impossible to face, when someone else instead of me always seems to know the way. Then I look at you and the world's all right with me. Yeah, just one look at you and I know it's gonna be a lovely day, 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 lovely day. When the day that lies ahead of me seems impossible to face, someone else instead of me always seems to know the way. Then I look at you and the world is all right with me. Yeah, just one look at you and I know it's gonna be a lovely day, a lovely day, lovely day, lovely day, a lovely day. Lovely day, lovely day, lovely day, lovely day, lovely day. Thank you.
Hey, good morning and welcome to Action Church. First of all, I think I have to say Happy Father's Day to all the Action Church fathers out there. Thanks for all you do. I always, fathers, the Bible paints a really good picture of fathers, and I think, there's a wide spectrum of how good fathers are, but we really need them. Good fathers is one of the most pivotal things for our community. So, Happy Father's Day. We are live on Facebook right now. We are also live at live.actionchurch.com. Those are up every week. We also have the opportunity to rewatch and re-listen on the Action Church app. You can do that on YouTube. You can also do that on Facebook. And any podcast app will have the audio. It's just called Action Church. You'll see the Action Church logo, and you can rewatch or listen there. Every week we talk about inviting, investing, and getting involved. So let's review again and talk about, kind of the new Action Church here on the other side, sort of a pandemic. So invite. With the live stream, we actually have great ways to invite that maybe weren't quite the same as they used to be. We have content, we have stuff you can actually, share the sermon, things like that. If you're really advanced, you can even go to your favorite part and say, just listen to this little clip here. And so you can you can comment, all of those things. Obviously, we still need to talk to people. We need to admit that we come to Action Church with our mask on, obviously. No, whatever you feel comfortable with in terms of that. But we need to talk to people and invite them to Action Church as well. Investing. So we support several local organizations, both in our giving. We help some organizations, and then we also have groups that meet here from the community, and they're starting to do that again. And so your investment in Action Church helps keep the lights on in this building. It helps keep the lights on in several nonprofits around the area. And of course, things pop up here in our Action Church circle and in our connecting, the outer reaches of our circle as well. And so we're able to help people because of your investment. There's no secret backing organization. It's just us. Those in this room, those on the live stream, we're the ones that make that happen. So we need your help to do that. We're also improving the live stream and doing some things like that. We need to get kids reopened, so those funds are very much needed. And get involved. So we obviously have a Action Kids that is not open right now, but we're actually going to learn more about that next week from Kathy directly. We're gonna talk about how we do that differently, and obviously there's new guidelines we have to think about and things like that. So we're going to need volunteers for that. Music, live stream, that kind of stuff, we need more people to get involved on the technical side. And of course, if you want to share your talents on stage, we very much welcome that. Let's see here. Cleaning. We need to clean because, COVID and whatnot. The last thing I'll say is we also have the opportunity to make Action Church what we want it to be. So one way to get involved is when you see something, say something. No, I'm just kidding. When you see something, take ownership, take responsibility, and say, I think that's something I can do. That's my thing now. And we've done a really good job at when people do that, we rally behind them. We've seen the Unyard sale and many other things that have really got off the ground because one person said, I think this is a really good idea, and Action Church rallies behind that one person and gets it done. So a lot of announcements today. I'm going to turn it over to Don.
Thank you, Mitch. It should be see something. If you see something, do something. I like that one. Say something. Anybody can say something. We are Action Church. Speaking of Action Church, oh my goodness, how crazy was that this morning? And the fact, and Bill will bear me out. There was 3 people here at 8:55, and then cars started pulling up, and by 9:30, there was breakfast and a circus going on in the parking lot. Thank you all, and thank you ladies for cooking. We usually have a really dude-heavy cooking crew, which I think is cool about Action Church, but the ladies cooked for us today, and that was just amazing, so thank you. Thank you so much. But yeah, what a wonderful, wonderful morning, and it's great to be back and I'm so glad you're out there on the live stream. I know so many of you are, but no pancakes for you. Sorry, we haven't been able to live stream pancakes. But also want to say Happy Father's Day. And at the very end, I want to deal with sort of the fathers part of Happy Father's Day. But first of all, we're talking about the happy part, right? So this whole series, this whole month, we've talked about how to be happier. And I got a little worried about that because I plan these series, weeks or months in advance. And I got a little worried because the AP, the Associated Press, came out with a happiness survey this week. It was Tuesday. I was what if everybody's happy? What if everybody's happy? And then my sermon series is kind of for no good. But thankfully, you guys are miserable. I am so glad. I mean, for me, not for you. I mean, it's terrible for America, but great for my sermon series because you're more miserable than ever. In fact, the survey came out this week that Americans are more unhappy than any time since 1972. And there was a number that jumped out of this survey, and it was 1972. How can we be less happy than in 1972? Take a look behind me. Oh my goodness, like it was polyester pantsuits and like, mix and match plaid leisure suits for men. And you had just, not you, your parents had just like, you had elected Richard Nixon in a landslide in 1972. And protests, we had protests in the street protesting the Vietnam War, but like thousands and tens of thousands of young men were being killed in Vietnam. And the new American car was the freaking Gremlin, and they ruined every other muscle car. If you're like me and you like watching like Motor Trend TV or something, what do they say every time? Like, these cars were great up until when? 1972, because that's when all the smog and the horsepower declined and like everything went, 72 sucked. And we're less happy than they were in 1970. The music, oh my goodness! Is Jerry here? He'll be mad at me. But here's the thing: like the number 2 song in America was "Alone Again." Naturally, I mean, of course you're alone. You're whining. It's terrible. Like, and the number 5 song of 1972 was "Candyman" by Sammy Davis Jr. Oh, that's finger popping music. Like 1972 was terrible, and we're less happy than we were then. I mean, come on. So I thought we'd talk about what Solomon said about being happy, because obviously what we're doing isn't working, and that's kind of what Solomon said. He didn't say what we're doing isn't working, but what Solomon said, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago, is he said, I know that there's nothing better than for people to be happy and do good while they live. And as we read that, and it's stuck with me all month, you're like, yeah, you said it. Well, no, I didn't really say it. I got it from Solomon. But it's kind of interesting, because what Solomon did is he tied sort of an idea of happiness and healthiness together. Not that they're the same thing, but they're sort of like each other. Like, healthiness is a thing, but it's hard to define, right? Like someone being healthy, it sort of takes time to know, because someone can sort of look healthy or appear healthy for a short period of time, but actual healthy living, having a plan that involves the right amount of exercise and the right food over a long period of time, that's a really important thing, but it's hard to know, because it's sort of a little different for everyone because of our genetic makeup. Some of us can eat different things than others. It's interesting because a lot of times people get on a diet that works for them. And number one, how long does it work for? But if it does work for them, it also can be, as you guys know, like the first time, your friend goes keto and he's like, you got to do this or you're eating poison and drinking swill. And you're like, maybe that won't work for you, or maybe long term. And so that's the way healthiness is. And it's sort of the way happiness is. Like, we can be happy in the short term, just like we can look healthy, we can lose weight, or we could, gain some fitness in the short term. But over time, staying happy and staying healthy are a lot alike. And what Solomon said is that really, to be happy in the long term, you sort of had to do good in the same way that to be healthy in the long term, and this is terrible grammar, but it's still true, you have to eat good, right? Like, long term, you have to find something that's healthy for you to eat and a healthy amount of exercise to remain healthy over long term. And it's the same way with happiness. Like, we can be happy in the short term from pharmaceuticals or, a crime spree or something, but it's not a happy way to live long term. And so that gets really sort of tricky if you're a Christian, or if you believe that God created the world like I did, because what Solomon said, and what is true in life, is that our normal healthy appetites lead us to unhealthy places, which is sort of a head scratcher if you think about it. Like, wait a minute, like, I have an appetite for power and for sex and for food. I have a power to be, I have an appetite for affection. I have an appetite for, all of these appetites that are part of a healthy life and part of a happy life. But they're really easy to sort of like, if we just ate pancakes nonstop, we wouldn't be healthy. But they are I've declared them a healthy part of the food pyramid. You're okay. But so that's sort of the way happy and healthy is, to catch you up. Now, here's where it gets worse. Like, as a Christian, we kind of struggle with the idea of like, yeah, but I can really get messed up indulging my appetites, but yet I believe God created appetites. So what does that say about free will and about sort of what he had intended for us? But on the other side, even if you're not a Christian, if you're not a Bible person, if you don't believe God created the world, you don't believe anything the Bible says, there's another side of that, because if you're looking to culture to sort of tell you what's healthy and what makes you happy, well, there's some problems there as well, because we know that the food pyramid has changed a lot of times over the years. Like if you look at the old food pyramid, I love making fun of the food pyramid, because like if you actually ate what was on, I lived through some of that. Like, hey, I like the breakfast in this food pyramid, like, cereal, toast, orange juice. It's like, it's all carbs. Make sure to put margarine, don't use butter. That's healthier. But we've lived through the food pyramid being all screwed up. Like I lived through a period, and I love to share it because it makes people uncomfortable. In the 90s, we were told to eat pasta and sugar-free, fat-free snacks that gave us diarrhea, which actually did work. Like I remember the first time we went to Hershey in the 90s, we were coming out here from Missouri, and Michelle had been raised in this area, so we went to Hershey Park, and it was just when the sugar-free Hershey's line came out, and you're like, I didn't know there was a sugar-free Hershey. Oh, there's a reason. You need to sit on the toilet while you eat them. And I didn't know that because no one knew that, and I decided to eat them on the drive home. It was not pretty, but here's the thing, like, we didn't know. Like, that's what culture said. Try the new fat-free, sugar-free Hershey. They're good for you. And it's not just the food pyramid, is it? I love cigarette ads, because here's a good one for you. There was a time when a nice, healthy gift for Dad was a carton of Chesterfields. And you know how we knew? 9 out of 10 surgeons smoked Chesterfields. So, but I was thinking, like, it's like a carton of cigarettes, like, $75, that's a pretty good gift, right? Like I could trade that in prison. So I don't know. Like if you want to give me a carton of cigarettes, cool, I'll find a trade for it. But I was thinking, like, that was culture saying this is healthy, this is good. And remember these things? Like I remember seeing one of these at my grandmother's. Like this was workout equipment, like in the 60s and 70s. Like, and I don't know how, I know how they sold the first one. Like I would buy the first one. You're like, so all I have to do is like sit in this and like smoke and drink and watch TV and I get thin. I get that one, like, because I want that to be true. I still want that to be true, but how did they keep selling them? Like, clearly it didn't work, but that's the way our culture is. Like, at a certain point, I bet there was moms going, do you have one of the new vibrating exercise belts? Look how thin I am. It's like, really? So that's, I just want you to think, look back and go, there's been a lot of times in our culture when, with all of the best intentions, maybe, probably not, more due to advertisement and money, like the food pyramid was made by farmers and industrial food producers. But let's give them the best intentions. They were so wrong. And see, here's the problem with you and I. You and I go, oh yeah, silly 1950s, silly 1960s, 70s. Oh my goodness, what a bunch of crazy people. 80s, same thing. But now we have it together. And I just want you to consider what Solomon said in Ecclesiastes. He said this, remember this? I read this a couple weeks ago if you're here. He started out this whole talk by saying, history merely repeats itself. It has all been done before. Nothing under the sun is truly new. Sometimes people say, here's something new, but actually it is old. Nothing is ever truly new. We don't remember what happened in the past, and the future generations, no one will remember what we're doing now. And Solomon puts out makes a good point. That we think everything we're doing is right now. Like, oh, we know what's healthy. We know what makes us happy. I mean, we know. Our culture knows. Possibly, let's say it's at least possible, that our kids and our grandkids are going to look back and go, what a bunch of loons. What were they thinking? They'll look at that just as like you looked at the cigarette ad I showed you. They'll go, what were they doing? That's so unhealthy. That's so, oh my goodness, no wonder they were miserable. Just like I look back at 1972 and go, no wonder you were miserable. What a miserable world you created. And they'll look back in the same way, maybe. So, I think we should look even further back. Because the problem is we don't live very long. We don't live very long, so we forget what happened before. And so the book of Ecclesiastes, which is my favorite book in the Bible, is sort of King Solomon, who was the richest, wisest, like just over the top, sort of made Elon Musk look like a slacker in his day. This is sort of his side project podcast, if you will. It's kind of like he's writing under assumed name. We know it was Solomon, but he calls himself the teacher and or the preacher. He's like the preacher says, and it's him. So it's like his side project. So you're kind of listening when you listen to Elon Musk on a podcast or something and hear what they're actually saying. And so he gives 4 sort of ideas about happiness that we've been talking about. And here's this week's. This week is this. When God gives someone wealth and possession and the ability to enjoy them, to accept their lot and be happy in their toil, this is a gift from God. Now, there's so much in there. And that's the thing I find about Solomon thing, which is generally true of really smart people. It's super simple, but it's super deep if you think about it, because there's a part like, what? God gives wealth? Well, that means if I don't have wealth, God didn't give, what about that? And then there's kind of like the ability to enjoy them. There's something in that that's pretty catching, isn't there? And we know that's true, right? Like some people have a better ability to enjoy things. Like, because we saw people during this COVID thing that were perfectly happy in the same situation that someone else was completely miserable and like pacing the floor going, I can't wait to get out of here. And somebody's like, this is cool. I could do this forever. And so we know that's true. Like some people have ability to enjoy things in a way. And it's weird because we're sort of as a culture designed, like if I had the right thing and I was in the right situation and somebody would do this or somebody wouldn't do this, then I'd be happy. And it's like what Solomon's saying here is like, oh, there's another layer, like how you react to them really determines how happy you are. And then he said this, which is super sort of weird to think of in 2020 America. In fact, it might be, I don't know, this might be against the law. I don't know. Like, accept your lot in life and be happy in your toil. Like, we don't do that, do we? We're like, I'm going to get through this till I can retire or till I get a better job. I always hear people say that, or like, I want to retire at 30. I don't ever want to work. It's like being happy in your toil and sort of getting in a career and going, I'm happy here and this is my lot in life and this is what I am. I'm a mom or I'm a dad, or I'm a single person, and just being happy in our circumstances, that's positively un-American. You have to admit that. Like, we can't do that. We can't have people. And so there's a lot in here. And I get it. Like, if you're sort of thinking this morning, like, well, I don't know if I really want to take happy advice from a monarch who lived, in 976. Well, here's why I think you should, because we're really stinking unhappy now, right? Like, let me remind you, 1972 sucked, and we're less happy than this. So I think we should take advice from Solomon, at least consider it. And here's what we're going to do today. I'm going to let you do something today that we normally don't do. I normally don't read a Bible verse and go, do you think this is true? Because here's the reason why. Not because I'm afraid you'll figure out it's false, but because I go, how would you know? Like, truthfully, like, how would I know? I believe this, but there's not like I can prove to you in 3 simple, moves, like, this is why I know. There's a lot of things you have to either believe or disbelieve. But I'm going to do it different today. Because if we're going to take advice from Solomon, if we're going to sort of take advice from Solomon about how to be happy, and he lived 3,000 years ago, I think we should look at what he says, because this is a long thought. It's not just that. That was sort of the wrap up. And I'm going to give you the opportunity to just sort of vote in your mind, like, is this true? Is this false? Or maybe, and I don't know about you, but I love this on surveys. Do you like NA? I like NA. In fact, I like writing NA whenever I'm filling out a long form. I'll NA the crap out of it if I can. Just not applicable, not applicable, not applicable. I love that. It means you don't have to fill out the rest of the line. So maybe you and I will read what Solomon said and go, well, that might have been true back then, but donkey parking is not a problem now. Right? Or like your camel, in someone else's yard, not too applicable. All right? So I'm going to read what he said, and you get to choose. Here's the first thing he said. This is the part, he lays out sort of the problem with society, and a lot of economics in this one. But if you want to think about happiness, how much of happiness is economics? Seems like a little bit in our world. So here's what Solomon says. Don't be surprised This is from the New Living Translation, but this is what all the translations say. This is not some sort of like, oh, but Don made this up. Nope, read it yourself. Don't be surprised if you see a poor person being oppressed by the powerful, and if justice is being miscarried throughout the land. For every official is under orders from higher up, and matters of justice get lost in red tape and bureaucracy. And then he says this, and bear in mind, Solomon's the king. He says, oh, and even the king milks the land for its own profit. So he's like, oh, and by the way, the teacher, you know what the king's doing? He didn't get rich, like how did he get so rich? So let's think about this. Is it true in 2020, like maybe Solomon's so wrong? Like, oh man, we got way past that. That poor people become oppressed. Have you heard of that? I've heard of that. And by the powerful, and justice is miscarried due to bureaucracy and red tape. Is that a thing? Like, if I feel like that's a thing. I don't want to vote for you. You have to decide. I just report. You decide. But here's what Solomon's saying. He's saying like, and here's the funny, because you're going, yeah, because of Trump. It's like, oh, maybe. But we're talking about they had a king. And you go, but not in another country. Oh, I think what Solomon is saying is true in every country at every time to some extent. That in some way, poor people, and here's the thing, you go, oh, they can't say that. That's not right. I don't know. Jesus said it. They were sort of yelling at Jesus for having a woman, gave him this expensive gift, and they're like, you should give that to the poor. And Jesus did nothing but care for the poor, but he goes, hey, guys, the poor you'll have with you always, but I'm here for a limited time. And so what he was saying by that is not that I don't care about the poor, because he cared about the poor. He fed them and healed them, but he was saying like, this is an ongoing problem. Now, so what do you think? Like, I'm going to vote true. Like, I think that's still a thing, right? Like, there's still a problem with poor people getting a bad deal. And, it's so amazing how a guy that lived 3,000 years ago understood. And this is thousands of years before Socrates going, hey, guess what? Bureaucracy happens because the one guy goes, yeah, maybe I'd do it differently, but my boss, he won't like it, and even gets the chain of command down. It's just amazing. So maybe we'll read a little more, see what he has to say, because so you might think from that, he's like, so being rich is way better than being poor. Like, if you can be rich, get some. Here's what he says about that. He says, and this is the richest guy on the planet at that time, those who love money will never have enough. How meaningless to think that wealth brings true happiness. The more you have, the more people come to help you spend it. So what good is wealth except perhaps to watch it slip through your fingers? And he knew nothing about like Tekashi 6ix9ine and all his friends. He's like, if you get a lot of money, then people just come along and you end up taking it. And then he said this. He said, people who work hard sleep well, whether they eat little or much. But the rich seldom get a good night's sleep. And I know maybe you're going to struggle with this. You're like, I don't know. I'm not rich. I don't know. But like, let's just look around in our culture. Is there an amount of money that makes you supremely happy? So there are no divorces. There are no lawsuits among rich people. There are no fights, or there are no suicides. There are no drug addictions. There's no alcohol addiction. There's no sign of pain in rich people. Oh, I feel like this is still a thing. I feel like Solomon sort of nailed this as well. And he nailed it in a way where he's right. He's like, there's a certain amount of money that you get. Not that I have this amount of money. I'm willing to try it. But where you don't even sleep well anymore because you're so sort of worried about keeping it. I feel like that's true. You vote in your mind. You can disagree. I will say this, you might say true, you might say false, but is anybody here voting not applicable in your mind? Like, that doesn't happen anymore. You might disagree with his take, but isn't it at least sort of poignant that this old guy, this old monarch from 996 knows how people would be in 2020? Sort of how economy works, even though he was in a monarchy in the Middle East. So maybe a little more. Let's try this. He said there's another serious problem I see. So this is still, he's diagnosing the problem with happiness in culture and economics. There's another serious problem I've seen under the sun. Hoarding riches harms the saver. And this is the richest guy. And I keep saying the richest guy, and you're like, well, how could you know that? Yeah, thank you, Napoleon. But I'm like, the reason why I would say that is because the Queen of Sheba, who is a historical figure, not a storybook figure, visits King Solomon. That's why he lives on in culture and mythology, and she supposedly gets depressed when she sees what he has. It's pretty bad when the queen, the most powerful queen from a continent comes, and she's like, now I'm depressed that I've seen what you have. So he says, hoarding riches harms the saver. And money is put into risky investments that turn sour, and then everything is lost. Doesn't happen, right? Like, there are no risky investments that turn sour. Maybe. And he said everything is lost, and in the end, there's nothing left to pass on to one's children. So he's saying even though you save up, then you invest the money, and don't think they had a stock market, but they had investments. And so, like, you would invest in a ship that was going, this is what he was known for. He would buy a ship, build a ship, sail it to another continent, and, get a product there and bring it back. And so that's why he had all these crazy things like elephants and gold and all these things. He was just incredibly rich. But if you think about that, like, we think of long-term investment, it would be years before he saw if his ship would come back. And so he was the one who sort of coined the phrase for diversifying your investment. He's like, launch your ships upon many seas. And what he meant is literally like, I don't send all my ships out together. I send them in all directions to go get me some, because I don't know which ones are coming back. And so this guy who's thinking like that, who's doing stuff like that, who's just incredibly successful, is still saying, the problem is, even if you have money, it's hard to keep money. And it's possible that you work your whole life and you save, and then you don't even have much to pass on to your kids. And it's so weird because that's a thing, right? Like in America, we work our whole lives and we save all this money and we have retirement, and then, like, studies show that in the last 2 years of your life, you sort of give all that money back, or most of that money back, to a nursing home or a hospital, and then have very little left to kind of live out your last few days. And so seems like he's on to something. So I think we can read on. He said, in the end, there's nothing left to pass on to one's children. So we all come to the end of our lives as naked and as empty-handed as on the day you were born. Also true if you've ever been to a funeral home. I don't recommend it, but take a look around back. They won't let you, but just walk back there sometimes. Tell them I sent you. You can go back there and see if anybody is clothed and rich. They're not, and it's freaky. But anyway, so he said they come in naked and empty-handed as on the day they were born. We can't take our riches with us. And this, too, is a very serious problem. People leave this world no better off than when they came. And all their hard work is for nothing. Oh, this is such an inspiring passage. You should put this on Pinterest. All their hard work is for nothing, like working for the wind. And then he says this. This is his diagnosis of economics, and which is the study of people and property. And so he said throughout all their lives, they live under a cloud, frustrated, discouraged, and angry. That's what the teachers had to say about the problem of human interaction with goods and services, economics, if you will. Well, what do you think? Crazy talk, or completely false, or not applicable, right? Like, we solved that problem years ago. None of that is true. Isn't it interesting, though, like, this guy, who was a historical figure, we know, but also is in this book we call the Bible, which is not really a book. It's a collection of writings about the same thing. In my mind, at least, nailed the problem with economics in 2020 and laid out a pretty good picture of what we deal with in the most advanced nation, maybe, close, probably, at the most advanced time ever so far. And here's why I think that is. I don't think that's because he was like a wizard. I think he was right because he was right. No, that's not it. He was right because that's the way people still are, right? He wasn't a wizard. He just understood human nature, and he understood how God created this system to work. And so he's like, oh, this is the problem that's always going to happen because people are going to behave in this way and economies behave in this way, whether they're, central command or they're capitalist or they're whatever. Like in the end, guess what? There's always someone who's a little more equal than the other person. There's someone in the bureaucracy and they get a little more and the rules don't quite exactly pertain to them like everyone else. And it just goes up the chain. And so there's people at the bottom and people at the top in every system, in every land, in every time. And in the end, if we all sort of keep working under that same system, whichever one it is, you end up frustrated and discouraged and angry. So, is it at least worth hearing his solution? I think it is. You have to decide. I'm not going to pick this last one. I think that's true, but here's his solution, and I'd like you to think about it. Even so, I have noticed one thing at least that is good. So he's come around to this is my solution. It is good for people to eat and drink. We did that this morning. That is good. He's right about that. And enjoy their work under the sun during the short life God is giving them. And to accept their lot in life. When God gives someone, here's our key verse, when God gives someone wealth and possessions and the ability to enjoy them, to accept their lot and be happy in their toil, this is a gift of God. And then he says this, God keeps such people so busy enjoying life that they have no time to brood over the past. That's his solution. And you have to decide, is that true? Or completely, that's false. That's insane. Or is that just not applicable anymore? That the best way to live, to be happy, is not to, if I had enough, I'd be happy, because you'll never get enough. And this is not, understand, like there's something for my capitalists and my communists to be unhappy about in these verses, but understand, like, Solomon is beyond anything you can imagine as far as someone trying to grab wealth. He's literally taking over the world as he's writing this and saying it's not enough, which is a big problem for all of us to work through. But he's also saying that wealth and possessions and the ability to enjoy them, and then to accept your lot in life where you are and to be happy in your toil. Like whatever it is that you have to do, whatever career that you've moved into. Like if you're happy in that. And I know there's cliches that says if you enjoy your work, you'll never work a day in your life. Guess what? That's crap, because I enjoy my work and I'm working hard. So I think people say that so that you'll join their work, but there's something to that, right? It's a cliche for a reason, because that's what Solomon is saying. Like, you think if I could retire, I'd be happy, or if I could get rich, I'd be happy, or if I could, I love when people say, because I'm a contractor, they go, boy, working for yourself, that has to be nice. I'm like, yeah, but there's still the working part, right? Like you can get off anytime you want. Yes, you can. And then you can starve. Like, we never take vacations if you work for yourself. So it's like everyone sort of looks at everyone else's job and go, well, that would be better, but that's not what he's saying. Like, what if you could come to a place in your life and just so, I'm happy in this place. And I enjoy the work that I do every day. Not when I retire, because who knows if that's going to happen. Or not when I get that promotion, because who knows if that's going to happen. But I'm happy right now. And I'm happy, like, in the house I'm in. And I'm happy with the family that I have. And I'm happy with the car that I drive. And I'm happy every day. And you can't stop me. That's pretty powerful. Now, here's what I want to say too. Happy Father's Day. Guys, I think that this is for us. It's for everybody. But there's a part in there that is so powerful for fathers. And I just want to say something to you, like, you are the hope of our culture. And I'm talking to fathers, not like, I sired a child and I don't know where they are. Bunnies can do that, and they're better at it than you. So I'm talking about fathers. I'm talking about fathers who are caring for their family, caring for their kids. You're the hope. And guess what? Can I just say something? Maybe you've been thinking, like, there seems to be an organization for almost everybody, but not fathers. And so you might think, like, maybe I'll get a sign, or maybe, don't you dare. Be a man. Be a dad. Be unstoppably giving. Be overlooked and unthanked and happy about it. Because that's what our world needs. And that, oh my goodness, I think is the happiest thing you could do with your life. And man, oh man, like the rewards are so much better than any retirement program, and those are great. It's better than any like toy you could buy, or any like reputation you could build, or any business. Anything you could think of, like there's nothing better than this. But it's sort of like first rule of Fight Clubs: don't talk about Fight Club. Don't you dare go, hey, we got to get some recognition. We need to stand up for our rights. No, you do not. We need somebody on the planet who does the opposite, who just loves their family and provides and cares, no matter who's looking. So I want the band to come back up here again. And I want to pray with you fathers, because I know it's not an easy job, but man, is it a good job and an important job. And this is for you. This is not like, oh, and I'll be happy when the kids grow up and move out, or I'll be happy when I get retirement, or I'll be happy when I get my own business, or I'll be happy when I retire, or I'll be happy when she gets a job, or I'll be happy. No. I want you to be happy starting now. And I'm going to pray for you to experience that. God in heaven, we live in strange times. But it's so interesting and so powerful to see how true is true across thousands of years. And God, thank you for like ancient words that still make sense today. And God, open our eyes to the happiness that comes from just owning our situation and being happy in our toil. And God, I pray for moms and kids and families and singles. God, America, I pray for our world. God, our Solomon's diagnosis of angry and depressed and discouraged sounds like a diagnosis of our world. We're unhappy. God, I pray especially for fathers, like real fathers who are loving and caring for their families. God, I pray that you would give them courage, and I would pray that you would give them strength. And God, you would just give them incredible perseverance. In your name we pray. Amen.
All right. Thanks, Pastor Don. Thanks, guys, for having me back, too. This is always delightful being here. Thanks to Raph running the sound. Give him a quick hand. Without him, I'd be doing that mariachi thing, like going from table to table. But anyway, so I'm wrap this up with the song. Like Ecclesiastes is such a rich, wise book, and so many things you keep digging into your whole life. And this is called "Build My Life." It's a house fire song. Pat Garrett wrote it. Pat Barrett. Wow, sorry. And then it's how to be happy is to build your house on the rock, not the sand. So here we go. It's called "Build My Life." If you know it, you're welcome to sing, but no pressure.
Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. And I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation, and I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. And I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation, and I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken.
Thank you, everyone.